Hello, everyone. I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby, and here with me is Sanne Wohlenberg, the executive producer of Andor. This series has done so well, and I think, when it was first announced, there were some people who might have been skeptical, because Cassian Andor is not an all-powerful Force user in the Star Wars universe. So some people, I think, maybe thought, well, why is this guy getting a series? But it turned out to be incredibly acclaimed. Did it feel like a risky bet to you in those early stages?
God, it's hard to say. It felt a bit like we kind of happened under the radar, because I guess we weren't the show that anybody was anticipating as much as Rogue One was much loved. I think, because it has a very definitive ending. I don't think there was ever any expectations to return to it, and I'm sure Diego felt the same. And then when Tony had this wonderful idea, of course, what an exciting thought. But with the pandemic coincided, I think we were really not on people's awareness. It was funny when we were shooting it, and whenever there were some photos of a big unit base somewhere, people always assumed we would be Obi, and it really left us nicely alone. So it was a nice safe space to work within, and to really concentrate on Tony's very particular vision, and concentrating on doing it and creating it, and hopefully coming out with a product that the audience, as much as they were probably not waiting for it because they didn't really know it, then consumed with great thrill and excitement.
Yeah. And Tony Gilroy's approach, he has a much grittier take on this universe, and he wants to show you, I think, the everyman, and the stakes feel impossibly high at all times. What's kind of the most exciting aspect of his approach to you?
I think he really had a very clear focus on the story about rebellion that he wanted to tell, and we are set at a very particular time, within the canon and the Star Wars universe, and that's very much what we concentrated on, and really all I know much about, it has to be said, and that focus gave it a very specific voice and a huge clarity right from the start, and it was, and by nature, when you tell the story of the everyman being caught in an extraordinary situation and then ultimately being, kind of rising to do extraordinary things under pressure when they're fighting really for, for their freedom and against an oppressive force. It very naturally shifts the focus to something grittier, truthful, and it really was the DNA of the story of Andor.
Yeah, I think probably one of the most prevalent themes that sticks out to me when I think of this show is just this concept of what will a person do when they are truly pushed up against a wall, when their back is to the wall and they have no other options. Was that a difficult thread to chart in the Star Wars universe?
I mean, look, Tony made it very, very easy in a way, because he followed, as much as we are following Cassian Andor's story of how he took him as far away from the hero that will give his life to the cause in Rogue One, which people know. He really took him as far away as possible from that and tells the story how, a not perfect or superhero individual, with a difficult childhood and not, and sometimes questionable traits, a real and normal person, how he gets caught up and what the situation and what he learns and the people that he means do to him, and what kind of journey takes him on the way to becoming the man that people see give his life in the course. So it was a very clearly mapped out story, and of course it's not only Cassian Andor's story. The many worlds he he passes and he comes in touch with, and the very many people from very different walks of life, really all have a very important part, not only of his journey, but also of the journey of the rebellion. So it really was a very focused piece. And in that sense, it was an easy way in. We just had to do it justice.
Well, and I will say it extends beyond even the rebellion. We dive into like Denise Goff's character and Kyle Sollers' character, which is an interesting turn because Star Wars often has very black and white hero and villain. and we don't get to see the
Tony
villain side, the bad guy side.
Journey is as far away from it as possible. Also, I think when you look in life, the clear-cut black and white is something that is what kids would like to believe when they read a fairy tale. But I think the world, no matter how far back you look in history and whatever conflict and the stories that come with it, throughout, is really every baddie just a baddie? Are we not dealing with humanity? And, even when you are on a political side and, I fight against, there is still a human being. And I think taking the Star Wars franchise to serial storytelling, of course, opens the possibility to follow these people and dig in and see them behind closed doors and really go on a very long journey in development with them. So I all our Imperial characters are really every bit as important to tell the story of what it means to be caught up in a situation like that.
And I would say one of the things I think that many fans really responded to was the exploration of characters like Mon Mothma, who was, this fan favorite kind of mysterious character. Yeah, that you get to dive into her backstory. What was it like to deal with a legacy character like that?
I mean, fascinating. And how explosive it would be, because you had seen one side of Mon Mothma, and yet, in true Tony fashion, he really dug into that. And he always brings family into it, because your society and your world influence you, so many people, to meet her husband and her daughter, and how she navigates that amongst, her strong beliefs, political beliefs, and, the passion for the rebellion that ultimately, is so prominent that she has to make. It's all about sacrifice. And look at Cassian and his backstory, and his mother, and and Cyril, another wonderful character who is on the wrong side, and the relationship that he has. I think it all makes it incredibly human and tells you so much more about people's actions and who they became. And then we're taking them on a journey where we're seeing how that develops and what impacts it has.
Yeah. When you're dealing with a character like Mon Mothma and fleshing it out, this series is very beloved. The characters are people are very protective of them. Is it difficult to get story elements approved when there's a big character like that in the mix?
Interesting. We of course, there has to be a huge respect for the canon and everything that we can't go against, because it's a bit like a period piece and fitting into it. But there's also only so much that is known. So fundamentally, we work very closely with all the experts, that keep, an eye on the canon and across the whole franchise, which is important that there's no discrepancies. But there also was strangely a real window of opportunity where there is a void and non-knowledge for Tony to dive into and fill, and in a real excitement, I think, for the franchise and from everybody involved, because all this, it makes them all much richer, and it really kind of, I think, opens a whole new path for these characters as well across the franchise, and not just for Andor.
Yeah, and we're talking about a lot of different elements. The story is so huge, and takes place across these locations. There's the prison in Narkina 5, there's Mon Mothma's very elegant home, there's the heist. When you have a scope this large, how does that affect filming? Were you even able to schedule things in order for this?
We always try as much as possible. I mean, look, we are blessed with a fantastic cast, and they're really, such an asset for our show, and consummate professionals, and really digging into their characters and throughout. And Tony creates three-dimensionally. Every person you meet has a real meaning and place within the story of the rebellion that he tells. And you want to give not only your artists, but also, really a chance to do it as in order as you can. And they're kind of almost like chapters. So, and you also, the writing also determined how many blocks we shot it in, because where the stories kind of naturally through a world, and were bound together. So it became these chunks. And you never come, but of course there's also elements that cross all blocks of filming and, throughout the series. So you never completely shoot in order, of course. We also, by the, being paused by the pandemic, our shooting order really was very different initially, because we were starting in June and finishing in the winter, and when by the time we came back out of the stables, we started in winter and finished in summer. So we had to change our shooting order, because going to the Scottish Highland with Aldani in January wouldn't have been possible. You would have seen that. And there were all these things. So it found then its new natural shape, but we really tried as much as possible to at least keep the stories, the chapters, as coherent as we could, with exceptions.
And I imagine for you, something that this large in scope, there's such different demands from people, different needs from all sides. Like the studio, of course, needs their deadlines and they have certain expectations, but the creatives need room to play, room to write. What is your trick for juggling all of that?
It's a bit like dealing with a piece of three-dimensional chess. And, there's moments where you would like, when you have 180 speaking parts and ever-evolving sets, and because we never have enough space to create it all and keep it standing. So we build, we shoot, we revamp, we pull it down, we build something new. There's huge pressure. So the absolute key to it is to really dig in and work with the directors and the showrunner and the actors through all the episodes, that by the time you turn over, you have no wastage, it works, and you can't have any reshoots, because the sets, believe you me, will be long gone. And and then it's a merry dance. It's a complex beast. I would lie to you if I said it isn't. And days when the hair, gets very gray and everybody thinks, oh my God. But, that's what we are here to do in the film industry. We are very good to adapt, and we are very good at problem solving. And we were blessed with a team that really shared Tony's great passion for it. And when the obstacles became a little too harsh, we would just think, oh God, we can do this too. And well, we somehow managed.
Yeah, I have to imagine that makes it feel even sweeter when, something that's a huge swing like the Narkina Prison Break is such this great contained little cat and mouse game. When that really comes together, what is that like? What does that feel like when you see the final product?
I can't tell you how unbelievably amazing it felt, because there were always very special episodes. We shot that block last because of whatever order, forced us and other things in that way. And it was a nice contained way to finish. But, I think the last bit of pain, a week before we turned over, there was hardly a set. And I think, they were kind of finishing as we walked on. Oh, no, don't lean against us, please. That's not dry. Can we? And it was a miracle.
I think probably the best ones always are, right?
It is a bit like that generally, but a lot of prep went into it, and of course you need to know where you're going to rehearse it, to also fulfill these schedules, and a lot of it, as you see, what we're doing is actually in camera and practical, which really is part of the DNA and the depths which Tony is writing, which really enables it to do it. So by the time we turn over, really, we do know what we're doing, and that makes it achievable.
Yes. Well, you won an Emmy for Chernobyl, but I feel like Andor could arguably be even larger scale than that. How do those two workloads compare in terms of managing all the moving parts?
I think every beast, is always over ambitious and doesn't have enough time, and a lot of challenges as you go along. So it's never an easy birth, but this is unquestionably a bigger beast. This is, a world, Star Wars as a franchise is a world where everything has to be conceived, thought about, planned, concepted, built. It's a massive thing. Everything you see doesn't exist for real. Of course, Chernobyl, on the other hand, a big challenge as it was, you're just trying to be truthful to the period when it happens. It's a real story, and you just had to source things that are now very much period Soviet 86, so that it came with different challenges. But I think overall, yeah, it was more biteable. It was 5 episodes with 1 director, not 12 with 3. But they were both big challenges, but both real passion projects. And when you then are blessed enough to get extraordinary cast that we have with such talent and really amazing HODs that all believe in the story, the journeys become kind of equally challenging and equally rewarding.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure I don't need to tell you this, but the internet can sometimes be waiting with sharpened knives ready to take things down. But that really wasn't the case with Andor, because it's a franchise that people are very protective of. What is it like after you do go through all the planning, all the shooting, and all those complications, and then see it be embraced by the community?
It's extraordinary. I mean, look, we're doing this to reach an audience and to reach people and to touch them. And when you see that you're succeeding in doing that, it is the biggest shot in the arm. And it was just the most extraordinary energy to take into doing it again. It really is. We are blessed. It is humbling when you see what it means to people and how they respond and what level of detailed engagement we also got. It is, because Tony it is quite a grown-up way of writing. It is complex storytelling. You've got to pay attention, and people really did and really understood what Andor was. And yeah, it's absolutely thrilling, and we're doing it to be seen and not just as a passion project for ourselves, let's face it.
Well, it was seen and loved, I think. So congratulations. It's a great job on Andor. We can't wait to see where the story continues next. And Sanne, thank you so much for talking with me about it.
Thank you very much. So.
For everyone out there, subscribe to Gold Derby. Stick with us this season. Thanks again, Sanne.
Thank you.